Hi everybody, Rad Mom here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we got a fun one. We have Contrapoints just kind of laying it all on the line because he didn't think anybody was listening, I guess. Really quick though, please subscribe to the channel if you have not already so that we can all work together to bring feminism back into the real world because we do desperately need it. Contra and Matt Bernstein are talking about JK Rowling, and they love that they think they've got her. They got together and had this little love fest because they thought they had her on Holocaust denial.
This initial tweet that JK Rowling called this person basically insane for writing was, "The Nazis burnt books on trans healthcare and research. Why are you so desperate to uphold their ideology around gender?"
Which is specious at best, right? And that's been talked about a lot. But there was so much more going on in this podcast.
Neither of your articles support the contention that trans people were the first victims of the Nazis, or that all research on trans healthcare was burned in 1930s Germany. You are engaging in lying, Alejandra. So she responds by being like pedantic. I don't know. It's hard to respect this.
Where these two are just so comfortable that they let it all hang out. We're gonna watch Contrapoints gaslight women as a whole, try and suck all the moral authority out of feminism by making an example of JK Rowling. It's quite something.
She's one of the most famous authors in the world with an enormous platform, and she's just using it constantly to target this small and like already besieged minority of people.
Okay, so we've already got him flipping the script, right? We've already got him talking about a woman targeting trans people as if they are the besieged minority, which on its own is a misleading term. Because women are not a minority, are we? And yet, we're also, in a sense, the original minority in that we are the original subclass that, needs special protections. But don't worry, we're going to get to that. Contra's going to lay it out for us how he does understand all of that.
Who are facing like all kinds of like legislative and cultural backlash in the US and the UK.
What exactly legislative backlash are you facing in the United States? Okay. We have Rachel Levine, who has been appointed Assistant Secretary of Health for the federal government, but he's just the most high-ranking one. There are plenty of state and local office holders who identify as trans in the United States as of 2023.
So it's like really devastating that an author like that's this influential is also like this obsessively devoted to to contributing to the persecution of this group of people who's already so harassed.
She is obsessively devoted to defending women's rights. And many of us support her in that.
Trans ideology, which is sort of vaguely implied to be this like powerful cabal.
Right. Which is also incredible because in real life, it's like people with 100 followers on Twitter.
Yes, right. It's like you're being yelled at by like random like furries.
No! As I say, currently the Assistant Secretary of Health for the United States is a trans woman. Contrapoints himself, that name counts as a keyword in search software, okay? Like, he is famous enough that just that name counts as SEO.
Well, I have 400,000 Twitter followers, which is, by the way, too many for a twink.
Agreed. And I see why Contra didn't bring up his, because he has over 600,000 Twitter followers, which admittedly is nothing like Joanne Rowling's 14 million, is it? That's true. These men just cannot understand why this woman would use that platform the way that she is. And in this interview, they go all the way around to try to come up with every possible reason they can fathom why this woman would be using this platform this way, other than she just really doesn't agree with them.
I've never heard a trans person casually refer to cis women as people who menstruate, because the entire point of that term is that it doesn't just refer to cis women.
Thank you, Contra, and that's why it's so offensive, because only women menstruate. That is the whole point.
That people have sort of a visceral reaction to it, which I guess I can kind of understand. Like, I think if you were to make an intelligible, like understandable argument out of what JK Rowling seems to be saying in these tweets.
You mean if we were actually going to try and understand this poor woman who is arguing from her emotions? Are you ready for this?
I mean, I think you could put it like this. Like, for most women, the way that they are oppressed in society is, in fact, intertwined with biology.
Yes. That is the whole point.
Right, with the women's reproductive role, as most women are capable of getting pregnant, and that becomes a area where women's lives are policed, right?
Yes.
And it's interesting how JK Rowling never talks about this, right? Not a word about Roe v. Wade being overturned in the United States.
And I left in the whataboutism because I think it's just so pathetic. She is laser focused on what is happening in her neck of the woods. She's not American and she lives in Scotland. I don't talk about that much because I don't do a lot of hardcore politics on this channel. But what exactly does JK Rowling have to do with Roe v. Wade?
For most women, biology and misogyny they certainly are intertwined.
Ding, 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 ding! Watch him explain how he understands perfectly well the foundational concepts of feminism.
There's a case to be made that anyone who's assigned female at birth does sort of belong to a oppressed class by virtue of their reproductive capability.
Yes, that's the case made by feminism. This has been argued over and over and over. Like,
there's a case to be made.
The case has been made, son.
Especially, like, you know, the sensitivity around, like, you know, saying people who menstruate or people who give birth. I feel like if you just hear those phrases in isolation, they kind of, like, can be abrasive sounding because there's, like, a lot of shame and stigma there have for thousands of years around menstruation. And, you know, women often are kind of reduced by patriarchy to, like, birthing people in a sense, right?
Women are literally reduced by patriarchy to birthing people. That is the argument. That is the problem. Yeah. Good job.
So I feel like that there's like some like grain of something I can sympathize with there in terms of having a visceral negative reaction to these phrases.
Aw, he has sympathy for the tiny little grain of truth that is women's lived experience under patriarchy. Isn't that sweet? He can kind of sort of see why we might have a visceral reaction. It is just bald-faced offensive, but it doesn't matter, you see? It doesn't matter. He understands all of this. And it doesn't make any difference to say, yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. And that's the part where, you know, you're supposed to concede the point, asshole.
But I feel like anyone who takes a second to cool down, understand the context of the phrase, will see that that's like clearly not the intention.
The intention of it is to imply that someone besides women menstruate.
A lot of queer women were sort of killed on the basis of being asocial, quote unquote.
And regarding the Nazis and how on earth it is that they figure into any of this, the Institute for Sexual Research, I want to say it was run by Magnus Hirschfeld, who was a gay Jew. I can't imagine why the Nazis might have targeted his institute, right? And incidentally, there were some trans women involved because they were there too. So then they've tried to say that, oh, we were targeted by the Nazis. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. And to say that is not to deny the Holocaust. Way to blow that all out of proportion, guys. But, you know, we're treading on dangerous rhetorical ground here, aren't we? And I think Contra might be out of his depth.
So this kind of pedantry of being like, well, technically the Nazis didn't use the word, like, okay, but they still killed queer women and they still killed trans people. So like, why are you playing this pedantic game?
Oh, now you're worried about games? Now you're worried about playing games? These are two ends of this podcast squished together because you want to talk about pedantic games. What the hell was that? Just hand-waving away all concerns of misogyny under patriarchy. What the hell was that? And the word you're looking for is semantic. You wanted to argue about the meaning of words? Yeah, it is pedantic. The form of pedantry is semantics. Really, you're gonna get into an argument of semantics with an author? Contra honey.
Well, because they're engaging in the denial of transphobia, right?
And that is why you engage in your little semantic games. It's because you're engaged in the denial of misogyny. Thank you. I'll be here all week. So just to close it out, I want to point out that I did cut this interview down quite a bit, but most of that word salad from Contra was unedited by me. Most of that is as it was. All that stuff about how he totally understands feminism and the basis thereof. He just doesn't care. Thanks for showing us your slip there, Contra. I have been Rad Mom. Come back at the top of the hour for the live stream and discussion where we always keep it lively, and I will see you here next week with a brand new video. Watch this space. I'll see you then. Thanks a lot. Bye.